Alright, so I've gotten a lot of feedback about my game from early testers, and the main issue is very clear, which is that the game's just not very fun. The game works, and most things that were problems could be fixed really easily, but the game isn't fun, and that's the problem that truly matters. If you don't have a fun game, no one's going to want to play it. And it's flawed in a lot of other ways too. So in this devlog, I'm going to go back and fix a lot of negative feedback, and more importantly, start concepting a complete gameplay overhaul by introducing combat. If you haven't seen any previous videos, this game is Phobophobia, a game where each level is based around a different fear. I have a lot to cover, so let's get right into this. To start out, I'm going to talk about some updates to the first level. This is Arachnophobia. Now the problem with this level is that it's not very scary unless you're already afraid of spiders, which means a lot of players will just find this level boring. To fix this, I made the level smaller and narrowed some of the hallways, and made the atmosphere feel more tense and claustrophobic. And this does two main things. One, it makes the game a little bit more scary, but more importantly, it makes the game less walking. And I also upped player movement speed a bit later on. The spider AI was pretty weak before, and it wasn't that great, so I put some work into improving it. It's still not perfect, but now it behaves more reliably, and more importantly, it makes encounters feel a lot more alive. It will no longer just get stuck walking to walls or anything. I've made it a little bit better, but I might end up going back later and changing it even more. Maybe even introducing some sort of new mechanic. I do really want to make them climb on walls, but that's a lot of work, and I haven't been able to find any reliable information on how I would do that, at least not for the newest version. If any of you have any idea, I'd love to hear it in the Discord server or in the comments below. The biggest improvement in level 1, or at least biggest new feature, is this brand new chase sequence. Instead of a long, mostly empty hallway, you're now being hunted by a horde of spiders. For this, I even made a new variant with AI specifically for chase scenes. But regardless, it actually came out pretty good, and it's a fun area compared to what it was before. Level 2 is the worst level, and it's going to be in the finished product, and I don't really have a choice of that. It is pretty much just a filler level, it doesn't truly matter, and it's the shortest. It's acrophobia, which is the fear of heights, and making the fear of heights scary in a non-VR game is pretty much impossible. So, I got a lot of complaints, and it wasn't surprising at all. The real issue wasn't the lack of fear, because that's not really fixable, it was how buggy and frustrating the level was to play. To tackle that, I focused on fixing the most glaring problems. The wooden planks would sometimes glitch completely out of the map and not spawn properly, which was easy to solve. And there was also the problem that a lot of the platforms were way too thin, and so jumping to them sucked. And so I just made them a little bit larger. Some of them were way too easy and you would never lose on this jump, and so I made them a little bit smaller. Level 2 should now at least work at the very least. However, I'll know for sure after the next round of testing. But for now, it works to some extent, and while I have a lot more to improve, at least it sort of works now. Alright, so after making improvements to the first two levels, which are the only two that I've really tested multiple times, it doesn't fix everything, but you know, it fixes a decent amount of stuff because all of the level-specific complaints were on those first two levels, at least for the most part. The flashlight sucks, and yeah, I've heard this about 50 times from different people. It's terrible, and it's still not perfect, but after remaking it and adjusting settings and looking into a bunch of stuff, I actually made it good. I might end up remaking it in the future, it at least works to some extent now, and you can actually see. Another thing I received complaints about was the lack of gameplay. It just felt boring to most people. It was pretty much just walking and puzzles, and it's just not that fun. Especially seeing the puzzles are easy, because I can't add actual cool complex puzzles because the average player's not going to be that intelligent, and that's just something I have to accept. I have two main things that I'm going to do to fix it. First of all, the game is really quiet, and so, as our team is expanding, pretty rapidly actually, we are working hard to bring music into this game. And on top of music, full voice acting. That's going to be great, but we'll get around to that. Sound effects such as footstep sounds are planned to be added soon, and a lot of other sound effect stuff. Sound design is pretty important, and it's definitely something I have to do. The other main fix that I came up with is adding combat. I mean, you play as a soldier in the US military, so it makes sense to at least be carrying some sort of firearm. I decided that a simple handgun would be best. Now you may think that a gun makes horror games not scary, but it only makes it less scary if it's a reliable form of defense. But with long reload times and limited ammunition, you can't truly rely on the gun, especially against lots of enemies or very powerful ones. I'll talk more about the gun and combat system when I start working on them, but I'm far from even starting work on that at the moment. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is a flaw that I knew would be a serious issue. The game has no real clarity to it. You have no idea what you're meant to be doing unless it's mentioned in a paper, or it's so obvious that anyone could figure it out. Like I said earlier, voice acting is going to be added, which will hopefully fix this. Anyways, that's about it for today. See you guys.